Hello, this is my website project I've been working on. I just thought I'd show you where I'm at with it. It's called washyourbutt.com. Uh, so the only thing I've done so far is CD'd into my GitHub project directory dev environment and ran the setup dev env script. So what that does is does an apt update, uh, downloads Vagrant and creates a Vagrant virtual machine that runs Ubuntu. I'm also running Ubuntu, and then it does some provisioning. So the output that you're seeing here is the end of the process. I didn't record it because it takes some time because it runs apt updates on both the Vagrant virtual machine and my machine, for better or for worse. So what you're seeing here is some summary information I'm outputting. Kind of tells you next steps if you were just coming onto the project, what you would need to do with your development environment to get it ready. I can show you the provisioning script. There's a bunch of variables. I'll skip down to the good stuff. Here's all the functions that it uses. I'll skip those. And this is the actual body of the script. So you can see I'm doing the update, installing zip. This downloads and installs Terraform. This alias adds the terraform.tf vars because I'm keeping that in a private directory that I encrypt with Veracrypt. And again, the script would prompt you to create that as well. Add some stuff to the path, install the local version of the Amazon Dynamo database for development, install Python, install Node.js. Uh, this is just setting up the GitHub keys and the Amazon keys and credentials. Linking the Git hooks to the actual Git project hooks because I've got at least one hook that I'm running right now on commit, but I also wanted to check in the hooks, so I linked those up. And then these are just some checks that I use down here in the summary section to kind of tell the user what I did and what they need to do. So I've done that. It spins up my environment. Right now the Vagrant server is running. I'm going to bounce over here. Right now my website is running. You can see it's just a single image, but it's all created and managed with Terraform. So if I go here into Terraform, this is all hosted at Amazon, and it's all ephemeral and spun up here with Terraform. Oh, we'll do this. We'll connect to my Vagrant box. This is what I spun up. The other thing I'm doing is mounting that project directory I was in on my Ubuntu machine. I'm mounting it into this opt directory. So whenever I work on my project, it's shared between my host and my virtual machine. So here, this is everything that's spun up right now in EC2. And now I will destroy it. So the only things that aren't managed with Terraform is a Dynamo database table that stores all this state information. And then I also predefined a group of DNS servers because my DNS isn't hosted at Route 53. It's hosted somewhere else, and when you use Route 53, you get different DNS servers every time. So unless you specify a group that you always want to use, so I did that out of band uh, within the AWS console, so I can always rely on getting the same for DNS servers. Well, that's running. We'll take a look at what I've got. So ultimately it's going to be a front end, back end kind of microservices light based website. So I started here with the data. This is my actual data that I'm going to be serving up. It's just a bunch of quotes in JSON format, and I also put in HTML carriage returns because ultimately they're going to be rendered in HTML. But I have some Node.js scripts here. So the first thing I need to do is install the npm modules. Now keep in mind I just spun up this whole development environment and all this stuff is pre-configured and ready. The only thing that's not done is these npm installs. It would be easy to add them, but if I wind up with a bunch of Node projects in here, I might not want to do these installs for all of them at once. You know, if I'm only going to work on one, I don't want to do 10 npm installs that I don't need to do. So we're going to let that go. Okay, so it installed my dependency, which for this is only the Amazon SDK. And now I'm going to start up the Dynamo, the local Dynamo database. There's a big, long Java command that starts it, but I aliased it in my provisioning script, so I don't have to remember what it is. So now my database is running, and I can create my table. I can load my JSON data. And then I have a test script that just queries the database and makes sure. There's actually two tables that I'm using here. One is a table that contains all these quotes, and then the other one is a table that contains just the total number of records in the database. It's a long story why it's that way, but it is that way. And the other thing I did, this package.json file is where it maintains all the dependencies for Node.js, and you can also define in here a test script command. So that test script I can also execute with npm test if I'm so inclined. All right, so now I've got my database spun up, created, and populated with data. So now we'll go to my back end. This is an Express, it's a Node.js Express-based web app. It's pretty simple, but I need to do my npm install here for those dependencies. And while that's running, we'll run back to my Terraform stuff. So you can see I just destroyed everything that I have running up at Amazon. It does not exist anymore. The DNS is destroyed, all the networking is destroyed, the server itself is destroyed, any storage. The only things that remain are those two things I mentioned, the state table and the DNS record set. So now I can rebuild the whole site just as easily with one command, and that'll recreate everything, including the DNS. It'll create the EC2 instance. It'll check my code out. It'll install. It does. The front end right now uses Docker, so it'll build the Docker container that hosts all that, and it's all done with Terraform and shell script provisioning right now. All right, while that's going, I think my npm install is probably done. It is. Okay, and now I can start this up. Start it in the background. Okay, so now I have my Dynamo database is running, my backend is running, and I can test it. It listens on port 3000. Does it not get quote? Let's see. I apparently don't know where I put it. Oh, it is get quote. What's going on here? Oh, it worked. Maybe I just didn't wait long enough for it to start. Okay, so yeah, so you can see here it's retrieving the JSON data from the database. It's getting a random record basically from the database and serving it up. So that works. I didn't have to fix it. I don't know why I was getting that redirected. Must not have been up all the way. So now I can go to my front end and this just starts a web simple Python web server so I can test and hit my stuff here. So now I have my backend database, my API that's going to serve me the quote, and then a front end that's going to render the quote to the user. And so I'm forwarding those ports so we can actually test it here. And that Python web server is running on 8080. Oh, and then I am... No, I guess not. There we go. So every time I refresh, it'll get a random quote from that database. There's only 11 in there, so you're going to get some duplicates, but I overlaid it over this natural image for some reason. I don't know why I thought that was necessary. But that's it. That's the front end, the back end, and we'll see how our old buddy Terraform is doing. Whoops. Okay, so you can see I just rebuilt all that infrastructure, so now my actual website should be up. So it timed out before after I tore it down. Now let's make sure it's back up, and it works. So that's how it's done. Thanks for watching.